Hello, everyone, and welcome to another day of the ICA Walk for Awareness. Everybody is getting their steps in. For those of you who can't, who are participating from home, this little program where we have talking to Dr. Sharon Thompson today is going to be for you as well. My name is Nicole Cozine. I am the founder and owner of Pelvic Sanity, which is a pelvic health and wellness clinic in Orange County, California. And today we have a special guest, Dr. Sharon Thompson, who is a senior therapist here at Pelvic Sanity. We're both pelvic health PTs. We both treat people, well, everybody here at Pelvic Sanity treats patients with interstitial cystitis on the daily. And I'm just going to give you a short bio of Dr. Sharon, and then we're going to talk today all about mindfulness. So Dr. Sharon is a treating physical therapist at Pelvic Sanity. She graduated from USC, from the Doctor of Physical Therapy program there, and also continues to teach and educate through that Doctorate of Physical Therapy program at USC. She has authored an ebook for us called Hello Endo. And as we all know, that endometriosis and interstitial cystitis do go hand in hand. So it's a great resource if you also have endometriosis. And the coolest thing that we have her here for today is that she is the creator of the mindfulness program that we have at Pelvic Sanity. And so before we get into what that is and how you can start to implement a lot of these mindfulness practice tips into your daily routine, we're going to say hi to Sharon.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Great. Oh, we're super excited. And we just really feel, and I'm sure that you can attest to the fact that mindfulness is such an important practice for anybody that's in any type of chronic pain. And I know that you're really passionate about it. So you can kind of give us maybe just a little bit of background as to how you got started into mindfulness yourself and how you're implementing that actually in treatment sessions for our patients here.
Yeah, that's a great question. So mindfulness is such a hot topic right now. I feel like it's a catchphrase that everyone's throwing around, but maybe people don't know quite as much about it. So I actually got first introduced to it when I was in PT school at USC, and we had a whole section of our course focused on mindfulness and how to start integrating that in our own lives. And I was a major skeptic.
Yeah.
I thought it was stupid, I'll be honest.
I'm sure many of you guys think that. Yeah.
Totally. So I could completely relate. But I didn't have any idea how practical it was and how easy it was. I mean, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I was really worried that since I wasn't a mindful person or like a meditator, that this would be something that would be completely impossible. And what I really found was that it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. And it's been so helpful even in my own life. And then just like integrating some small, easy practices with patients has been so game changing for a lot of people. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. So now you noticed you said meditation, like you weren't a meditator. So is there a difference between mindfulness and meditation? Can you go over that a little bit?
Absolutely. So meditation in and of itself is mostly just like spending some focused time and attention doing something. So most people's concept of it is like meditating on nothing, right? Like clearing your brain and thinking of absolutely nothing. Now you can also meditate with mindfulness, or you can meditate with other techniques. So sometimes people like to meditate on visualizations or even on different words or mantras. But meditation is really the practice of like really focusing your brain in on that and concentrating on that. However, mindfulness is more like a state of mind. So mindfulness in and of itself is simply being aware of the present. And that can be done while meditating, or that can be done by existing.
Okay.
So mindful meditation is just taking the idea of being present in that moment and focusing your meditation on that.
Got it. Okay, cool. So that I think is a really just helpful tool just to reframe in your mind about if somebody's like going to watch this interview and be like, no, 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 that's not for me. It doesn't have to be this huge production at your house. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go somewhere. You don't have to get guided in it. It really can just be about staying present, and which is very hard for a lot of people with interstitial cystitis, right? Because we're always thinking about, oh my gosh, what's going to be happening next time my pain is it going to get worse than it is now? So I'm hearing from you that what you're saying is that being mindful about just staying in the present moment, maybe paying attention to some of the body systems right now, can sort of help with calming the nervous system in that way. Would you say that that's right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in that way, so that kind of segues perfectly into, so how can mindfulness and practicing mindfulness really help somebody that is suffering from pain with interstitial cystitis?
So with IC, a lot of times people have been struggling with it for a long time. And anytime you're experiencing pain or symptoms like that for even longer than 3 months, we call it a chronic condition. So your brain begins to experience pain in a different way than like if you stub your toe one day and then it feels better like 10 minutes later.
Right.
Our brain starts to process it in a different area, which actually makes it harder for us to be present in the moment. So when we are in pain, it literally is changing our brain. Now, what happens then is our nervous system is so much more inclined to be focused on the things that are creating that pain over and over and over again. But the nice thing is that we can actually use things like mindfulness to help retrain the way our brain is perceiving pain and the way our brain is even perceiving the rest of the world. So I'm sure like everyone with IC knows that like when you're in a flare or your symptoms are acting up, that is all you can think about. And when we think about it and we're dwelling on it, it's not that that pain is worse because of what's happening there. Sometimes our brain is going to make it really hard for us to even experience pleasure or to enjoy our time with our family or friends or other things, or feeling that we're unsafe or unprotected or not understanding what's happening there puts us in a state of alarm that it's going to amplify the symptoms that you're already feeling. So mindfulness is a fantastic way to even immediately make some of the changes about how our brain is perceiving the things that were happening in our body. And then long term, it can literally change how your brain perceives pain forever. So that's pretty cool.
So that's really cool. And that I think is, I think so often we hear patients struggle with, well, if I could just get out of this pain, then I could be better at yoga, be better at mindfulness, be better at meditating. So, but I feel like there's a little bit of a mindset shift that we need to have happen then, to think about mindfulness being potentially the catalyst to make that change. So that's what I'm hearing you say. Would you say that that's correct?
Definitely. I would say that mindfulness is like a brain hack.
Yeah.
We're always trying to find ways to change how our brain and our nervous system are functioning, and it's hard. But mindfulness is actually one of the easiest ways to make that happen.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Okay, so right? In a perfect world, how often should someone be practicing mindfulness versus how do you implement this in your everyday? Can you give some like explanations and suggestions for someone that might be dealing with IC symptoms? What would you sort of say? What do you coach your patients to do?
Yeah. So I think it really depends on the person. If just thinking about this is stressing you out, there's a lot of ways to get started that will not put your nervous system more in a state of alarm.
Right.
But one of the things that I'd like to point out is that most people have some element of mindfulness already present in their life. Or easy ways to implement it so that you are just becoming more present in the activities you're already doing. So when we think about how often we need to do it, really it's easier to think about how often we're not doing it. So how often in your day would you say that you are really present in the moment? I mean, we do a lot of things that are like in this area, in this moment. Like, what if you're washing dishes? You're, aware of what's happening with the soap, with the feel of the dishes, but then our brains kind of get sidetracked and we're thinking about something else. We're thinking about the future. But actually, that's a great time to just focus on the activity that you're doing in that moment. So a lot of typical self-care things people are already doing, like your morning, brushing your teeth, kind of like washing your face, taking a bath, all of those things are easy opportunities to literally just pay attention to what your body is feeling in that moment, the sensations you're getting, and even the emotions that you're experiencing. So it doesn't always have to be pure meditation, and it's easier to start with things that are familiar to us already. So sometimes we can practice those things that are a little harder by meditating. So that's why when we meditate, really, it's like mindfulness practice. So you can
Okay.
take certain skills and develop them, and they'll become a lot more available to you when your nervous system is in a higher state of awareness. So when it's not feeling so good, when you're not feeling so good, it's harder to practice mindfulness for the very first time. If you've been practicing it ahead of time and maybe doing some techniques that you're already familiar with, it becomes so much easier for you to implement that when it's really coming down to like those painful, difficult situations.
Right. So in that way, so then what I feel like this could be a little bit of a light bulb moment for people then would be that we would start out by doing some sort of mindfulness practice and pick something that they're already doing every single day, brushing your teeth, like you mentioned, yeah, brushing your hair, taking a shower, anything like that, where you're actually looking inward at what is that, what is that, what are all those body sensations, so that that can be something that you implement every single day, so that when you do get into a flare, we're not trying to implement something that is unfamiliar to you at that time, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's kind of like, okay, so what does paying attention to how I'm brushing my teeth, like how on earth does that help me?
Yeah. So yeah, right. So give us some examples of that.
So one of the things, I mean, we talked a little bit about how our nervous system gets in a more amplified state when we're in pain. But if you think about what that amplified state is, most of us know that as fight or flight. So when your nervous system feels like it's under attack or it's unsafe or you're unsafe, it's going to try to protect you. So it can shut off blood flow to your digestive system. It can increase your heart rate, your blood pressure. It increases muscle tightness,
Mm,
which a lot of times for IC, that's one of the big things that's going on there. Even just the decreased blood flow to the organs in that area is going to create problems. And a lot of times with IC, we see sometimes that like if your stomach is upset, your symptoms will get worse.
yeah.
So if you're stressed or your nervous system is in that state of fight or flight, it's going to create worse symptoms. But when you're mindful and you're aware of what's actually happening in the present, your nervous system will start to notice that you're not in a threatening situation. You may be experiencing pain, but by noticing that you were brushing your teeth in the safety and comfort of your bathroom, you will know that your system is actually not in danger. So those fight or flight things can kind of calm down a little bit. So in a bunch of different studies, we literally see the body making these quick, immediate changes to that fight or flight reaction into a more peaceful rest, digest space. So sometimes, like if you're about to get run over by a car, it is important for your system to be in fight or flight.
Right.
Absolutely. Feel that fear, get out of there.
Out of the way.
So, when we're in chronic pain or stress or other things that are lasting for a long time, that's not feasible for your body to be there. So being able to be present in your moment and actually experiencing what is literally happening to you right now, your nervous system can adapt to knowing that you're actually safe and it doesn't need to have those heightened alarm systems to protect you.
Got
So
it.
that's why spending time to every time it's like a reminder to your system, like, it's okay. It's okay. I am washing dishes. It's okay.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point here, that I think that our bodies are so, when we're seeing our patients with IC, and people listening here, if you have IC, I'm sure you can relate, right? Where it's, your body is constantly in this state of, oh gosh, what's going to happen next? Is something going to get worse? Is something going to cause me more pain? And so in that way, you're constantly getting pulled by your pain to get out of the present moment. And then your mind then can play, not tricks, because it is actually like happening, that you're now living in this world, in the hypothetical, I guess, instead of coming back into, am I actually in danger? Is my pain actually getting worse right now? Or am I just fearful that it's going to be getting worse? And then we can kind of bring ourselves back to, just like almost like checking the boxes, like, am I actually in danger? No. And you're basically literally retraining your brain and your nervous system in order to get that signaling to sort of recalibrate down to, you don't have to like sound the alarm bells so high.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean, and maybe you can speak a little bit to this, doesn't necessarily mean that we're not claiming that this is going to take pain away, correct? Or what do you say about that?
So actually, what I want to be clear about is that you're not taking away necessarily some of the triggers for pain. So especially with IC, a lot of times there are musculoskeletal things going on that are going to be contributing to your symptoms. You're not solving those things necessarily, but you are changing what your brain does because of those things.
Got it.
So every time we experience something in the world around us, we sense it through our body and it relays a signal to our brain. Then our brain decides what to do with that information. So if it feels like we're in danger, it is going to sound alarms. And those alarms are pain. And the other things that I talked about, like shutting off blood flow to the digestive system, making it harder to sleep, just kind of like wreaking havoc in your body. But if we change how our watchtowers are kind of managing those signals, then the signals sent from our body may not have changed, but the way our brain interprets them does. So in one study, they even looked at a group of people who, it's probably not like a nice study to be involved in, but they were causing them a little bit of pain with like a pricking sensation. And they had the participants explain the amount of pain that they were in. And then they did a simple mindfulness practice and they did it again. And the pain decreased by 50%.
Ooh, that's
so
huge.
It can change pain.
Yeah. No, and that's good, because I wanted to make sure that we are, we're being clear about what it can and can't do. But I think the biggest thing is that it surely can change the pain perception. And a lot of times, in the interstitial cystitis solution, we talk about the DIP cycle, right? The dysfunction, the pelvic floor dysfunction, the inflammation, and the inflammatory response, and the pain response. And so each one of those areas needs to be addressed. And so mindfulness practice then would help with the pain response, and therefore be able to influence then the pelvic floor dysfunction response, and maybe even dampen an inflammatory response that's going on as well, right? Because all of those things are super like intertwined and interlinked.
Mm-hmm.
And so
they actually did one study where they looked at the inflammatory markers, and after doing mindfulness, they were decreased.
See, so important. And I feel like this type of, evidence-based practice, like a lot of times people will think that, oh, mindfulness, yeah, whatever, I don't need to spend any time doing that. When I'm in pain, I'll be able to, or out of pain, then I'll be able to do that better. But the reality is that there is evidence to show that this can change your pain perception. And so I want you to give a couple of little anecdotes as to how you've actually seen this work in your patients when you're going through the mindfulness course that you do at Pelvic Sanity.
Mm-hmm. So I love the mindfulness course that we do. It's a 6-week course, and it's basically for complete beginners. So you don't have to be good at mindfulness to even be taking it. So most of the people that take it are there because they don't know how to do this. So you are in the right place. But what I love is that it doesn't matter how good you are at mindfulness for it to be beneficial. And that's something that I've seen time and time again with this course, is that people come out of it feeling like they have more control over what's going on with their bodies. They have more control over what's happening during a flare. They're able to make better decisions even in their own healthcare because they're able to understand their bodies and their brains a little bit better. And it even helps with things like sleeping, which it sounds like such a small thing, but like when you're in pain and you can't sleep, it's going to disrupt all the rest of the things your body is dealing with. And it gives you less time to heal and recover. And that's one of the things that changes for a lot of people pretty soon on in that course, is they're able to sleep better.
That's awesome.
And I've had people kind of even take the course a couple times because there's always a couple things that they can learn a little bit better. And it's always like a way to explore different techniques that are more relevant to you. And everyone comes out of it having a completely different mindfulness practice. So all we do is really help people take it for themselves. Your mindfulness practice does not have to look like anyone else's for it to be beneficial. And actually, that's one of the things that I absolutely love about some of these studies, is a lot of the ones looking at the reactions after mindfulness look at it after their very first time doing something like that.
Ooh, that's really
So these changes happen in complete beginners. So you do not have to be good at it for things to start changing.
That's awesome.
However,
Okay.
sometimes the changes that are going to be more long-term are happening after a long practice. So as you do more and more of it, as it becomes to be part of your life, literally the way your brain perceives information changes. So it's pretty fascinating, but I'm a nerd, so I'll stop.
That's super cool. Okay, so for people that, obviously all of our patients at Pelvic Sanity do have access to that mindfulness course. So if somebody's watching this video and they don't have access to something like that where they live, what would you suggest? Like, what are some tools that they can use themselves in order to start this mindfulness practice?
Well, first of all, you can use my little 10-minute mindfulness exercise. That's something that's going to be a little like just basic, small, easy for you to implement. But the other thing that I really like is that because mindfulness is so popular, there's a lot of great resources right now. If you enjoy using your phone or apps, there's a lot of really good apps that can kind of walk you through guided mindfulness meditations. So you don't have to think about what you're going to focus on. You will be instructed, and all you have to do is follow along. So some of my favorites include Calm. They usually have like 10 to 12 minute meditations, and they're themed. It's like a really beautiful app. So sometimes my patients have told me they just open it and they feel better because it just looks so calming.
Right.
Another one that I really enjoy is Headspace. And especially if you're looking to understand more about mindfulness itself, they have a whole series about explaining how that works. And they have these cute little videos that go with that. And then they have their own guided mindfulness meditations. And then my personal favorite is Aura. So if you're a little intimidated by the sound of a 10-minute meditation, Aura is for you. And I promise I don't work for any of these people.
Yeah. And the doesn't either.
Aura has meditations that are 3 minutes long, and their long meditations are only 7 minutes. So if you only have a snippet of time or you're just intimidated, Aura is a great tool to use. And actually, that's the one that I use the most often, because then I can sneak in a little meditation here and there, and I don't have to really worry about it taking a lot of time. And then my other easy way to implement it is to incorporate more activities in your life that encourage you to be mindful. So we already talked about just day-to-day habits that you already have that you can be mindful while you're doing, but some activities just kind of encourage an atmosphere of mindfulness, such as yoga. Yoga is great because they're always, kind of talking you through what's going on with your body. You're very present. You're focused on your breathing and other sensations. Tai Chi is another really good one. If you don't know anything about it, I would definitely encourage you to try it because
Yeah.
it's a really gentle movement, but it can build a lot of strength and body awareness and that ability to engage in the present moment. And then even like crafty things. So when you're doing like art, you're painting, you're crafting, you're doing something, you're really present and you're in that moment. So a lot of hobbies really encourage mindfulness. And what I've noticed a lot of times is in people with chronic pain, we're really focused on helping ourselves and helping our bodies, but sometimes we don't give ourselves enough time to just enjoy hobbies or pleasurable activities, even if they're small. But
Right.
those little activities are ways for your brain to engage in the moment and realize that you're not in a threatening situation. And they're super easy and fun to implement.
Yeah, that's so awesome, right? So if you were to give one sort of lasting or last tidbit of information or encouragement to somebody that's watching this that has IC, that is struggling with pain, what would you say to them about how mindfulness could be helpful, or if you're intimidated?
So I would really encourage you to start approaching mindfulness like a child.
Hmm.
That's probably the easiest way for me to think about how what that develops in you. So if you look at little kids or even pets, like if you look at dogs especially, the way they perceive the world is incredibly mindful. Literally all they are thinking about is the present. Now, there are pros and cons to that.
Right.
But our issue is usually we're so much far away from the present that that's not even a problem. But if you look at how little children or animals appreciate the world, they're so wrapped up in the present activity. They're very excited and full of wonder and curiosity about things. They're usually just so much more sweet and compassionate to people around them because they're just there. So when you are approaching it, I want you to be just as compassionate with yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect to be a good start. And just start to appreciate the wonder of the world around you and kind of approach things with curiosity. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to work.
That is excellent, excellent advice. Be curious, and you can start with Dr. Sharon's 10-minute mindfulness exercise that she films specifically for people that are participating in this walk. We really appreciate your time, Dr. Sharon, and we hope that you will be watching for you guys. If anyone wants to get in contact with you or follow you, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at the DIY doctor. So that's the do it yourself doctor or DIY doctor.
Cool, perfect. And then obviously, if you want to hear more about pelvic sanity, can go to our website, and make sure to the ICA really supports a multidisciplinary approach to treating IC symptoms. And so make sure to support the ICA so we can do more interviews like this. And so thanks so much, Dr. Sharon, for being here. Thanks for sharing all of your mindful tips. And we'll be doing that all tonight because this is some of your guys' challenge.
Woo!
Yeah,
Thank you for
woohoo.
having me.
Sure. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.